Hey everyone, and welcome to another Sasquatch Theory podcast. On this episode, we have Derek from New York, and he had several cryptid encounters and experiences along with the paranormal, UFOs, and aliens. It's really hard for a person to deal with a Bigfoot encounter, but when you experience other strange things throughout your life, it really leaves you questioning what is going on, and there just doesn't seem to be an answer, and everyone theorizes as to what it could be. A lot of people say it's the Nephilim, they say it's demonic, and some people think that certain people have abilities and gifts. What are your thoughts and theories about this? And let me know down in the comments below. If you guys can, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you have a Bigfoot encounter you would like to share with me, please contact me sometime at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com. Alright guys, with all that being said, let's dive into Derek's encounters from the state of New York. Derek, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. How are you doing today?
Not too bad. Yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you so much for asking. Derek, you're from New York. If you would, tell me a little bit about yourself, kind of where you're from, and your Bigfoot encounters and experiences from the very beginning, please.
All right. Well, my name's Derek. I'm living in upstate New York right now. I'm 42 years old. I was born down in Tennessee, actually, in Sevierville. And I moved up here when I was 5 years old, so I'm basically a northerner. But yeah, I cut down trees for a living, and I like to go camping and hang out outdoors. I've been on a few hunting trips here and there, but I'm not like super well versed on that. So I know a little bit about the outdoors. I'm not completely ignorant on it. But yeah, I had some weird stuff happen to me when I was younger, and it's always bothered me. I don't know. It's something that I've thought about pretty much on a daily basis since then because it was just so odd. Um, but yeah, I guess my first encounter that I really significant one that I had, a friend of mine and I were sitting in a park that was behind my house. Now at the time I was probably about, I want to say, 15 years old. I lived in this little town called Clifton Park, upstate New York. It's in a middle upper class area. It was much sleepier when I was growing up there. There was a lot more woods. It's more developed now, but there's nature preserves around the area. It's got wildlife around there. I grew up, riding my bike down to the nature preserve and fishing and going on hikes to the woods and whatnot. And actually, in my neighborhood, there was uh, patches of woods and little bike paths that ran through them and parks and whatnot. And a friend of mine and I were sitting at a playground behind my house, probably about 400 yards from the backyard of my house. Um, and these little bike paths, they meandered throughout the neighborhood, and they'd have playgrounds periodically, and we were sitting at one of them at a merry-go-round right on the edge of the woods. We heard something moving through the woods as we're sitting there in the dark, just talking, just teenager, shooting the breeze, and we hear something moving around in the woods. And at first, it didn't really, we didn't pay it any attention. We didn't really thought it was something little scurrying about. And it eventually gets louder and louder, and we realize it's something, bipedal footsteps, crunch, 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 stomping through the woods. And these particular patch of woods, my friends and I had um, made a bunch of paths that ran in and out, all through the woods, and we built forts back there, and we were always exploring back there, so we knew these woods fairly well. And as we're sitting there, we hear this thing stomping through the woods, and the part of the woods it was coming through was a very, very overgrown, nasty brambles, but there was briars. It was awful. It was we've been through that part of the woods before, and even in the wintertime, with no foliage or anything, we had to crawl on our hands and knees to get through it because it was just so thick. And whatever this was marching right through it, just stomp, stomp, stomp. And it started getting louder and closer. And I remember thinking that, maybe it was one of the like the older teenagers in the area. They used to go back there and party and stuff and drink beer or whatever. And we were a little bit younger, so they would kind of scare us and mess with us every once in a while if they encountered us back there. So I kind of thought maybe it was one of them at first, but I remember like it got so just loud. I remember feeling the footsteps like in the ground. I stood up to back away from the woods, and I could like crunch, crunch, like you could feel them. And yeah, so we're hearing this get closer and closer to us, and it's getting louder and louder, and we're just frozen, kind of looking, at the wood line. Um, Now, like I said, there was bike paths, that ran throughout the neighborhood, and we're at the little playground. On the other side of the little park there was people's backyards, like their fences, to the backyard, and their back porch lights. My one friend Mike, his house is right there, and his back porch light shone onto the park, but it was far away, so it was kind of just very dimly lit. But we could see the edge of the woods about a foot or so in, and beyond that, it was just pitch black. And I remember we backed away probably about 20 feet away from the edge of the woods, and we're just staring at the trees where this noise is coming from. And the the saplings at the edge of the woods, I remember seeing them just start to like shake violently back and forth as if something very large was pushing its way through them. And I saw a very large, probably I want to say a 10-foot tall, just jet black mass, you know, just emerge. And I that was it for me. I was done. And that's when I ran. And I ran all the way down the bike path out to the road in front of my house. And my friend, he was a little huskier than me, so he was a little behind, and he was yelling at me about that too as he ran out. Why'd you leave me behind? But yeah, so that was very strange. We just kind of looked at each other and laughed, like, what in the heck was that, And then went inside, and that was that. And to be honest with you, I don't know that we ever discussed it after that. And I actually remember thinking of it when we were adults. I want to say like maybe I'm 42 now, and we still talk to each other. Um, and maybe 10 years ago, I brought it up to him, and I mentioned it, and he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But I know for a fact it happened. Like this is not just like I said, this is like something I've thought of daily. And at the time, I I didn't understand, what it could be. To be honest with you, it was just a mystery to me. Um, but I would think about it like very often because I always wondered what in the heck that was. Uh, and then I started kind of getting more into YouTube and finding out that there's like a ton of stories out there, people talking about this, and I've always been interested in the subject in general. So I started listening to stories, and wouldn't you know it, a few months later, I'd heard my exact same story about 300 something times. And I figured, oh, heck, maybe what walked up on me was a Bigfoot. And it's so strange for me even just saying that right now because it was in the middle of this residential neighborhood, like what? What? But But like I said, there was woods all through there, and the patch, the patch of woods that was behind my house, you could theoretically walk from that patch of woods to a nature preserve that was down the road and be in the tree line the entire time because it was much less developed back then. There was only little pockets of neighborhoods. Um, but yeah, that was one thing that was like the most significant, like in your face, like, yeah, that's definitely something strange that happened to me. But I've got other weird things that happened to me that, again, after listening to more and more stories, I think that maybe they could be attributed to some sort of activity with these creatures in some way. Um, yeah, it's a very strange phenomenon, and it's pretty difficult to talk about with people, to be honest with you, because yeah, most of the time you just get looked at like you're an alien. I don't know.
Well, if you would go into it, and I won't judge you. I'm all ears, and I've heard a lot of strange stuff, so you're in good hands here.
Yeah, I've heard the stories. Um, but yeah, so I mean, I suppose they're not really super, like, really that bad. It's just in general when you talk about things like this, people are like, yeah, okay. Unless they've had any sort of significant encounter themselves, they can't really put themselves in your shoes. And yeah, but so I remember this. I want to say that this actually was on my 16th birthday because I remember it was a birthday party of mine. It was my birthday is in August 29th. So I remember that, yeah, it was like a sleepover I was having for my birthday. I was having some friends over. Um, and we were in a tent in my backyard. Now, like I said, that part that I had that other encounter at, it's like almost literally a stone's throw away from where we are. Like I can see it easily. It's right there. Um, so we were all in the tent, and we're just, doing whatever teenagers do, and farting around. We uh we kind of stopped talking, and like I cannot remember who said something first, but I do remember that we all stopped talking, and then there was a general consensus between all of us, like, yeah, it sounds like there is something. Like we were in the backyard, and around the entire backyard was this like 8 foot tall, wooden fence. Um, and it sounded like something was jumping over the fence on one side, running across the yard, and then jumping over the fence on the other side. And it was running back and forth through the yard, just jumping over the fence again and again. And it was so strange because it was like you couldn't you couldn't hear the fence moving. You couldn't like directly like, okay, yeah, like you hear somebody launching themselves over a fence and then dump, 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 and stomp across it. It wasn't like that at all, which is just the strangest thing. But like you couldn't really like hear any. I don't know. I really don't know how to explain it, man. I really don't. It's so strange to me. Like you couldn't hear it. You just knew it felt like I don't know. And we all like this was like we all like we weren't feeding off of each other. Like this was like we all genuinely this is what the you know impression we were getting from what was going on. I don't know. It was very strange. It was enough to make us all stop what we were doing and sit there for about 10 minutes dead silent listening, and you couldn't hear anything, so we all decided to, as slowly and quietly as we can, unzip the tent and get out. And we all, I think there was about 6 or 7 of us all together, and we all just kind of single file get out of the tent and fan out, and all went and stood in the backyard in the blackness and just stood there looking off uh, towards the woods that were behind my house. And we're standing there looking out into the woods. And as we do, I remember hearing this just absolutely nutty, like, I don't know, animal call of some variety. I think that we all decided it was a combination of a woman screaming, a baby crying, a monkey, and some type of bird. As strange as that sounds, but we were teenagers. That was what we came up with. Um, it was a very weird call. I could not even hope to try to recreate it in any sort of manner, but it was it was loud and it was very strange. And the we heard that noise. It sounded as if it was, within 20 to 30 yards of the wood line, of the edge of the wood line to my backyard. And then almost immediately after that, like a second or two, there was a responding call of the same variety that was like way farther back in the woods. And yeah, that was that. Uh, yeah, again, we just kind of what in what in the world was that kind of thing, you know? Again, I didn't have any sort of reference as to what this might be, as like I'd never heard stories of this nature. I'd never heard of anything like that in the area. Um, I just it was so strange. And since then, I have listened to numerous animal calls and recordings and just anything you can think of. And recently I was listening to speak about foxes and the crazy noises they can make. And holy lord, they can they can sound crazy. But yeah, I I have yet to hear anything that sounded like it. Um, that was strange. Um, and uh, Another night, I was by myself. I was right around the same age. I can't remember specifically when. And chronologically, I don't know when these events happened. Honestly, it's been a while, and like I said, I do think of especially the instance at the park where like I saw the mass at the end of the shaking of those trees. Yeah, I think of that a lot, but yeah, I don't recall well enough to know chronologically when these all happened in accordance with each other. I apologize for that. I can't really remember that, but. Yeah, there was another night I was down in the basement of my house. The houses in the area were these, I think they call them like split level ranches. You'd walk in the front door, there's like a little ground level foyer, and then stairs to a downstairs level and stairs to an upstairs level. So I was downstairs, my bedroom was downstairs, and like my bedroom windows were like at ground level. So it was like half in the ground. Um, And I was down there one night watching TV, and my dog started to go berserk, like about something that was in the back area of my house. I don't know where, like, specifically it was, like, if maybe it was something that was like looking in the bathroom window right there, because from where I sat, the bathroom door was right ahead of me. But yeah, I was sitting on the couch downstairs, and my dog started to look down this hallway. And I thought she was getting excited about one of my cats because she was this dopey uh, border collie mix, and she just loved to chase anything. So she would mess with my cats all the time, much to their chagrin. But I thought she was getting excited about one of them. She was about to chase it. But if I said, "What is that? Go get it!" If I said, "Go get it" to that dog, that gave her license to go chase down whatever it was she was interested in. She would take off, and she refused to move. I was like, "Go get it, go get it. What is that?" And nope, she was not having any of that. She sat down, looked down the hallway, looked back and forth at me. She kind of gave me like a little, "Huh," and I was like, "What in the world are you doing? Like, why are you why are you acting like that?" This started to make me a little bit nervous. And and I remember, yeah, actually, I completely forgot that she actually ended up like getting like excited at one point. Like she's looking down the hallway, and she cocks her head and she jumps back a little bit. And I'm like, what in the world? And I'm looking down the hallway into pitch blackness, like, what? Why are you acting like that? And she ran over to me and she buried herself underneath my legs, in between my legs and the bottom of the couch. And it scared me, because I'm down there in the dark by myself, and so I'm like, you're supposed to comfort me, not hide behind me. So I jumped up onto the couch all the way, and she jumped right up onto the couch with me, and she buried herself behind my back into the couch cushions, and she was shivering, like she was shaking, like she wanted to hide from whatever it was that was down that hallway. And it flipped me out, man. I'm trying to reach for the lamp to my side without taking my eyes off the hallway. And I got that light on. And then yeah, I ran through. I turned on every single light that was down. I had the bathroom light on, my bedroom light, the computer desk light on, everything. All the lights were on down there. I was terrified. But yeah, I have no idea what in the world that was. I don't know if there was something looking in the bathroom window that was exciting her or what, or I have no clue. Because I also, see, it's like I feel like I'm opening up a damn ridiculousness here, like almost like I'm just, oh yeah, and you saw this too, and you saw it, but seriously, like you used to see like shadow people or whatever you want to call it in that house. It was strange. I wasn't the only person that saw them. I had several friends come up to me like, "There's nobody else here, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, there's no one else here, just us." And I saw somebody like, out of the corner of my eye, and yeah, all the time. Like I would be. It happened mainly in the upstairs living room area, but yeah, I would see something out of the corner of my eye, run from like the top of the stairs to the upstairs hallway, or vice versa. I don't know. It's a lot, to the point that I just started ignoring it, to be honest, because it was just like, I'm all right, that's a thing that happens. Whatever. I have no idea what it is, but sometimes I turn around and just give it the finger, like I was, you know, angry little rebellious teenager, whatever. But yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, that is. What do you think it was?
No clue for sure, but I don't know. The more I listen to other people talk about stuff like this, and the more the more stories I hear, I just really I believe in energy, you know, good and bad. I don't know. I think that maybe there was some sort of really bad energy in that house because some bad things happened there,
Yeah.
before I got there and while I was there. Um, it's like I don't really want to get into it. I kind of had some personal stuff going on there, but yeah, I remember like the family that lived there before, like um people would say things about the people that lived there, the family that lived there before, and I guess there was a lot of turmoil. Um, it was just kind of insanity came out of that house, and there was a few instances, like there was a bunch of stories I would hear about the lady that lived there and how crazy she seemed, and some of the stories that she would tell people. Like she ran down the road and was banging on my friend's doors, swearing that somebody had cut the power off to her house and there was someone trying to break in. And yeah, I don't know. I wonder if like some of that can be attributed to the same energy that I was witnessing and encountering. I don't know. But I do think that there can be places where negative energy can accumulate or settle. I don't know how it happens. I don't know if it's put there or if it just builds up there. But yeah, I think that stuff like that can happen. And I think that, I don't know, because also in that house is the only time in my life that I can recall ever experiencing sleep paralysis. And again, at the time, I had no idea what it was. no clue. I'd never heard about it, nothing at all. But I experienced it, several times, and I remember it terrifying me. Um, and after leaving that house, I never experienced it again, ever, not one time. And then I started hearing stories and people explaining it. I'm like, that's what that was. That's strange. But yeah, that was a strange house.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you for sharing that. And what else has happened? Do you have any more experiences that you'd like to share?
Well, I don't know. The most recent things that have happened to me is I saw a couple of UFOs. That was just whatever. But I did get it confirmed a week later. There was a numerous reports in the area, and a couple of people got videos of it. It was like around Waterfleet, New York, a couple of years ago. I live right next to the Waterfleet Arsenal. It's this big military facility. But yeah, no, talking about the orbs thing. That's just like I don't know. I saw one of those in my backyard one time. Um, Bright blue, size of a tennis ball, about. And yeah, I saw it zip from like the top of my house into the tree in my backyard, and I immediately, because I was facing it, and it went from my left to my right, and I saw it, and I immediately ran with it to like try to follow it and see where it went, and it like I clearly saw it, and it zipped from the top of my house right into the tree in the back corner of my house, and then disappeared. It was gone, and that was strange. Um, and I was in there's a power line right of way. I want to say about a mile down the road from me. Um, and I recently, like a year or so ago, I wanted to explore it because I've been trying to find areas that are close to me that I can hike into and little patches of woods because, I've been getting more and more interested in this phenomenon, I guess, if you want to call it. And I don't know. So I just want to get out of the woods more. So yeah, so I walked walked down this whole power line right away from one side to the other and explored it a little bit and found this one patch I could walk into from my side. So I was up there one night and hanging out, and I got chased out of the woods by a pack of coyotes. And I was amazed by that because there's literally houses like right there. I wouldn't expect there to be coyotes like that, but that's what it sounded like. Like I had a recording of it and everything. You could hear the branches breaking like from the bushes, like they were right there. But I ran away, and as soon as I got out to the road, like the instant I made it out onto the road, the sound stopped immediately. It was dead silent. So I don't know if that was like a pack of coyotes that chased me or something that wanted to sound like it, or I know that sounds stupid to some people probably, but I don't know. I've heard that there's, these things can mimic the sound of whatever the heck they want to if they want. And I don't know. Because it amazed me that a pack of coyotes, like, because I went back there and I was not back there long, and then I heard a howl, and then a second one that sounded like it was directed right at me, and then a immediate response of like the pack, and then they ran closer and closer. They got closer and closer to me, and I was like, "There's no way, there's no way." And they just got so loud it scared me, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm out of here," and I ran. It was probably about 300 yards into the woods maybe, and I ran out, and as soon as I got out, it was like the instant I got out to the road, it was dead silent. So I have no idea what in the world that was all about. That was strange. But yeah, those are the most recent encounters I've had.
Okay. I appreciate you for sharing all of that with me. And do you feel like there's a correlation between the cryptid encounter, the paranormal encounter, and the UFO experiences?
I have no clue. I don't know. Like, I definitely think that, I mean, I've heard stories from people that it sounds like it's a very credible correlation there, and definitely for sure in some instances. I don't know if my personal experiences have any correlation or if it just I just happen to have seen some strange stuff here and there, you know, and I happen to notice it more than others. I don't know. I have no clue. I don't know if I've been pegged or singled out, or I would say probably not, because I highly doubt I'm anything special in any way. But yeah, I don't think that. But I have no clue. I don't know if they could be related or not, but they're strange, man. Definitely.
Yeah. And whenever you saw the 10-foot creature, could you see any features on it, or was it nighttime?
No, it was nighttime, and the only thing that I remember seeing is just just I don't like even have any sort of definition to it other than it was just like a big black mass that was definite. I had to look up to it, you know, and I was 20 feet away, and I was looking up to the top of it,
Yeah.
and I saw the tree shake, and then that was like, and it was very wide, like it was accordingly wide to something that would be that tall, you know, just very very massive. It was huge.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I'm not surprised that your friend didn't acknowledge the experience years later. I've had the same with one of my friends whenever we were driving down a highway and we encountered what I call a hellhound. It jumped into the middle of the road, snatched up this possum, and then jumped back into the woods. And years later, I asked my friend, "Hey, do you remember that weird dog that we seen on the highway?" And he just didn't acknowledge me. He said he didn't remember, and I was like, okay, that's kind of strange,
Dude,
but
that isn't that so frustrating, man? You're just like, come on, man. Like,
yeah,
how do you forget something like that, man? And if you do remember it, why would you want to just shrug it off? Come on, are you not curious? Like,
right,
I don't
because
know. Like,
he was just as shocked as
my
I
buddy,
was.
yeah, right? Like, because I remember, like, I ran out of the woods and then he ran up behind me, like, dude, what the heck is wrong with you? Why'd you leave me back there? You're like, yeah, man, he was just as affected by that as I was. I have no idea why he would just refuse to acknowledge it later. And man, I'm so glad that you said that because I was trying to remember this. And again, I hope, you know, listen, to be honest with you, at this point, I've had so much ridicule about stuff like this. I honestly don't care if people believe me or not, really. I could care less. My whole reason that I'm even talking about this at all is because it's something that I've thought about so frequently, so much, and been so confused by. And I feel so alone in it because there's nobody that I know directly that I can talk to that says, yes, I know what you're talking about. I understand that. And it's just like, I know these things happen to me, you know? Um, but yeah, no, this isn't really as much of, uh, actual experience per se, but it was kind of like it's a recurring dreams. Like, would you mind if I speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all ears, man.
Yeah. So you mentioned the hellhound thing. Uh, I remember when I was when I was younger, I remember for some reason, I want to say like around the ages of like 4 and 5, maybe, I would have very, very vivid and recurring nightmares of being chased by a werewolf with red glowing eyes. Um, at the time, and see this, like I said, I was born down in Tennessee. Um, at the time, I was living in Sevierville or Gatlinburg. One of the two is right there. But yeah, at the time that these nightmares were occurring, and like they were like many times and very, very vivid. to like, I mean, terrify me. Um, and I have no idea what that came from. That just started out of nowhere. And then, later on, around this time that I lived in the neighborhood where, when I was a teenager, when I had these other encounters, um, that same exact park that I had that first encounter at, the bike path that ran through it, one part of it started right next to my house. So I could go down that path next to my house, ride down a little ways, go through that park, and then it went through like this tunnel canopy of trees. And it was another, I want to say 150, 200 yards about, and you get out to one of the main roads, and there was a street light out there. But in between, like from that turn through that canopy of trees out to the street light where the road was, it was pitch black in there. Like you could not see anything. It was just darker than dark. And there was this uh, a husky that lived in one of the houses right there. So his backyard was right there at the bend of the trail, right where the canopy started. And his name was Shadow, and he would be out there at night sometimes. And as teenagers, we'd be walking down the bike path, and then out of nowhere, because his fence was probably about 20 feet away from the edge of the trail, maybe. So he'd start barking, and just catch you off guard and scare the bejesus out of you. And we'd always, oh, screw you, Shadow, and they're always yelling at him. But for some reason, I started having these crazy recurring dreams where I'd be riding my bike because I had a really nice mountain bike and I rode everywhere. I was almost getting into it competitively is how much I was into it. But yeah, so I I would have these dreams where I'd be riding my bike, and as I was going down that path, I'd be looking over to Shadow's yard and he wouldn't be there. And then I'd look to my right and he was standing on the other side of the path, outside of his fence, and he had glowing red eyes and he was growling. And that would like pretty much terrify me awake, basically. And that happened like many, many, many times. And I have no idea where that came from. Like, no clue. I didn't know anything about Dogman at the time. I had never heard stories about that. I had no clue, other than from like maybe a handful of movies here and there, seeing stuff, but I didn't really know anything specifically about that. But yeah, like I have no idea what in the world. And then when I did ride, when I actually was like awake and riding my bike through there, I remember when I got to that patch, I would ride like my life depended on it. I have no idea why. Every single time I rode my bike through there, I would feel the need to ride as fast as I humanly could. And I always felt like something was like the hair on the back of my neck was standing up, like something was about to grab me. That's how I felt every single time I went down it. But yeah,
Yeah, that is interesting. And do you feel like these things are able to get into your dreams?
I, I sure hope not. I wouldn't put it past it. To be honest with you, like I said, I believe in energy, man. You know, um, it seems like it's becoming more and more apparent that vibrations and the frequency of stuff, you can really manipulate stuff if you understand frequencies and vibrations of things. And I think if you can manipulate vibrations and frequencies, and you can manipulate matter and do whatever you want.
Yeah, that's a great theory. Okay. So, do you feel like you're going to have another encounter again in the future?
Well, to be honest with you, I I plan to try. There's an area that I have my sights on up in the Adirondacks, and I've been trying to find the time. I'm just so darn busy, I cut trees for a living, and have sort of my own small business going, and trying to keep that afloat is quite fun. But yeah, I've been trying to find the time to go to a specific area in the Adirondacks, to be honest with you, because I don't know why, but I feel drawn to it. I can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah, that is
Sometimes
interesting.
it's really
I
late.
I've interviewed a guy from your same exact area that cuts trees, and he had an encounter in that same forest.
I don't doubt it. It's 6 million miles of weirdness out there.
Yeah, it's a lot of woods for sure. When people think of New York, they think of New York City, but the truth is, there's a ton of
Oh
forest
my
out there.
goodness. 99% of it does not look like that at all. Let me tell you, I've driven through areas here that are just mind boggling, and they're not that far away from you. You'd be amazed at some of the scenery, and the geography here is amazing, and there's a lot of hiding places for stuff out here. So yeah, man, I don't doubt that there is some really crazy stuff out there that people don't know about.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have an encounter in the future, feel free to reach back out to me, and I would like to hear about what happens and
Absolutely,
see if there's a connection with what's happened with you in the past.
absolutely. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you getting back to me, and as quickly as you did too, because I have no idea why I've been so apprehensive about this. I couldn't tell you, but it's like yeah, I feel like an enormous weight has been lifted off my chest right now. I can't even describe it. And I don't know why. I don't know what the significance of that is either, because like I've talked about this before with people, but I don't know. Never in the sense that like, okay, this person's taking me seriously, I guess. That makes a world of difference. And I just want to thank you for doing what you do, man. Because seriously, I this has just been such a wild ride, and I'm confused and perplexed, and it's just unstoppably curious about this whole thing. And I'm glad that there's somebody that's trying to get us all together to help figure this all out together, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's no problem. And I understand that it's difficult to find people to talk to. And, if you just had an encounter where you saw it cross the road and you think it's some unknown primate, that's hard, but you can still talk to people about it. But whenever there's strange things that have taken place and you wonder, what the heck happened? Is there a connection? Why did I experience paranormal, cryptid, and UFOs? It's really
Yeah,
difficult to talk to other people about
yeah,
that.
you get ridiculed pretty easily.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you don't have an answer yourself and you're just wondering, and it's real events that took place.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's no problem. And like I said, just reach back out if you have another encounter. And I really appreciate you for getting in contact with me and sharing your experiences openly here on the platform.
Well, I'm glad to do it, and hope it's worth listening to.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go, and you have an excellent Sunday. And I really appreciate your time, man.
Thank you. You as well.
All right.
God bless.
Yep. God bless. Take care, Derek. All right, Derek, thank you very much for sharing your encounters and experiences with me. And it's not a shock to me that these creatures are near houses in the wood line. And yeah, as long as there's a wildlife area nearby, these creatures can move anywhere they want, especially during the nighttime. Yeah, it's pretty common for people to shrug their shoulders, raise their eyebrows at you whenever you try to share this type of information because a lot of people just don't understand. Without having these experiences yourself, it's really hard to relate to others. That is very interesting that 99% of New York is nothing like New York City, and it doesn't surprise me because I've always heard that there's a lot of woods there, and the national forests there are absolutely huge. Again, it's a state that's very close to Canada, so going further north, there's just even more woods, and it makes sense that these creatures would most likely move down from Canada through New York and the Appalachian Mountains all the way down into Florida. It's just a giant set of woods through there, and a lot of people go out there hiking, hunting, camping, and I've heard a lot of strange stories. People run into unknown creatures all the time out there. But again, there's a big group of people that have never experienced anything throughout their life, and even people who are seasoned outdoorsmen who are out there all the time fishing, hunting, and exploring the woods, which doesn't make sense why someone who's always out there doesn't experience anything, and someone who goes out there a couple times experiences all kinds of activity. It certainly makes me feel like certain people are marked, and I talk about that all the time, whether people are tagged or not, or being followed by some unknown creature. But yeah, I appreciate everyone for listening today. It really means a lot. If you guys can, like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, and hit the bell notification for more videos. If you're listening right now and you have a Bigfoot encounter that you would like to get off your chest, please contact me sometime at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com. All right, guys, thank you for watching, and until the next one, be safe and take care out in the forest.